And we are convening at 7:50 p.m. If you could, you all stand to salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Superintendent Buckley, could you confirm the notice and posting of the meeting, please?
Yep, the meeting was posted at the SAU office, on the website, in the schools, and it was sent to the town offices.
Good. Item 2, we have no non-public anticipated at this time. 2 and 3. Item 4, does anyone have a desire, does any board member have a desire to modify the agenda, or shall it be approved as presented?
Could I ask, I think we have people here for E and H. Would it be possible to move those two up on the agenda so that Josh, who's here for technology and for the Bridgewater Hebron agreement, don't have to wait for the whole agenda?
Sure, good idea. I'm okay with that. Does anyone else have an objection?
I have no objection, but do they have to be moved in 2 places then? Because we discuss and then we act?
We could discuss them, and if we're going to act on them, they'll be acted on correspondingly in a different order. So, hearing no objection, we will modify the agenda, and that would be to make item 9E first, and item 9H second. Is there objection? Hearing none, I'll assume there's consent on that. Item 5, intercommunications. I've asked everyone to sign in. I don't believe anyone new has joined us. So that brings us all the way down to public comment. We have elected officials in attendance. You can go first if you'd like. Nothing to say, okay? And we have excused the faculty liaison and student council liaison due to inclement weather. So, that brings us to school board minutes for approval, which was for November 12th. Does anyone have any comments or corrections?
I have suggested changes.
Okay, Dawn, you can go first.
9G, the last sentence, or the last line even, suggest that we change it to, will establish a committee to explore options of staying with Franklin or sending their students to other districts. And did you get that, Leah?
Yeah.
And then 9J, you have SRO, and that should be School Resource Officer, SRO. And
You mean to expand the acronym?
The first
Yeah.
time it's used?
it's because it's the first time it's used. And what I remember was, still on J, was that Stacy requested the board to allocate dollar amount, not a percentage, for increases to be able to reward based on performance. Is that correct,
No,
Stacy?
it was based on years of experience, if you
Just the
remember.
years of
That we had, we had,
Yeah, that's
People
the
who-
next
yeah.
sentence, so
Which item is
forget
that?
that then.
The inequity line, about the 4th line down, about the support staff matrix not being followed in. people without
Oh,
experience
okay.
getting paid as much or more than most of them.
I think that was it.
Is that all you had?
I think so.
Okay, I have 9H. Third line where it says, she said Mike Lamani and she will be working on the default calculation. Just a grammatical change. And then next sentence, an article for a teacher salaries increase was discussed in an event an agreement is made. I have a question on 9F. I think that second sentence should read, the district has to report this information to the Department of Education and is available on their website, which will be updated. Past
And the
tense.
word "it" is missing, and it is available. Okay.
Well,
Right.
you don't need that, but that'll work. The question I have on this is, did I not also say, which I think I did, if I didn't, I was remiss, the next iteration with updated cohort information will be available to the public in time for the budget hearing in January 2014.
I don't think you said that, to be honest.
I don't recall that.
Okay, yes, I was remiss. Let's not put that in.
Just to mention, you brought up the first sentence, the second sentence, I'm sorry, the district has to report this information to the Department of Education.
Yep.
It's not true. You don't, the data task force information is, I think the spirit of what that meant was that the information we are receiving can only be obtained from what the cohorts report to the Department of Education. We don't report the information that we put into this data task force to the Department of Education. That might need to be clarified, because part of it's like, why does it
We do
take?
report an MS-25 though, don't we?
Right.
That's true.
That's
And
what that means.
No, I understand what he's saying. All the districts we compare ourselves to must also do that. And then we pull the information to make the data task force spreadsheet.
I'm
It
just
sounds
saying-
like, this sounds like
Yeah.
the data task force information is being reported to the DOE.
Right.
You could say this,
I'm okay with the clarification.
information
It's just
comes-
that we all report it.
I'm trying to think of
this
the.
information comes from information
Exactly.
that has to be reported by the districts. to
And I
the
think it was
state.
kind of a typo where the data comes from what is reported to the Department of Education. There's certainly stuff that's in the sheet from multiple documents that we do eventually report on. But
So how are you suggesting that should read then? That this information is reported to the Department of Education and is available on the website?
yes.
I'm fine with that. Anyone else have corrections? Oops, you raise your hand there, Paul? Start go up. Okay. Is there a motion to accept the minutes as amended? Moved by Paul. Is there a second? Seconded by Lloyd.
Then
It's done.
Oh, Don, I'm sorry.
Wasn't here.
To borrow your hearing aids, Lloyd. Okay, all those in favor of approving as amended, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Any abstention? Okay, the vote is 7-0. Okay, there's other minutes in your packet available for reference if you had an opportunity to go through, which was the Budget Committee minutes. question on page 2 of the second minutes for November 21st. This brings up my ongoing battle with this issue. Fourth paragraph down, on page 2 for the November 21st minutes. Starts out, it says Mike Lamoni defined average daily membership. Second sentence says, Stacy Buckley clarified that ADM is only calculated once a year and includes how many students were in attendance on an average day, while enrollment is calculated once monthly and includes how many students are enrolled in the district. Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
You are.
Because I mean, ADM is a one-day calculation. Enrollment is, you continue, I mean, I could get enrollment numbers every day. How many kids are actually enrolled in the school, and we try to do that on the first of the month.
Well, it says it includes, ADM is once a year, includes how many students are in attendance on an average day. Is that true?
If you want, I can pull it directly from their website, because this is the kind of data that the cost per pupil is based on.
Yeah.
So, one of the, and it's a tough one, because when you're looking at enrollments, if you look at the number of students that we're responsible for paying for, it's very different from the average daily membership number, right? So this, I'll just read this directly from the website. The cost per pupil is based on current expenditures as reported on each school district's annual financial report, the DOE 25. The cost per pupil represents the current expenditures less tuition and transportation costs. Any food service revenue is deducted from current expenditures before dividing it by ADM, and attendance, capital, and debt service are not current expenditures and are not included. So that didn't help you with ADM, sorry. Hold on,
Isn't ADM October 1st?
no, it's not. It's actually a combination from the DOE 25. Let me, I can pull that up too from last year, where it's looking at, it's your average daily membership on any given day.
From when though? I think
No, it
that's-
looks at the whole
sorry.
year. It's only calculated once. So
That's the point.
in the
The
DOE
front part
25.
is October
Yeah.
1st.
But for,
Calculated once a year on October 1st and includes how many students were in attendance on an average day.
Right. Or being
So it's
in
the
the
October
prior
part
year.
that's missing. It
The
sounds
October
like you
1st
do it once
enrollment.
on an average day. What's that mean?
Right.
That's the problem with this.
If I took if I took attendance on every day, you'd have to wait till the end of the year to get your ADM, because you would take all that divided by the number of days, 180, and then that would give you the average daily attendance.
And that's
Or-
the ADM.
Yes.
Right. So remember that October, you may calculate it, but it's for the year before.
Understood?
Yeah.
Then all we need on here is how many students were in attendance on an average day the previous year.
Which
Comma.
last year was like 1207, I think.
Yeah, but that's what the sentence is missing. Because
Okay.
it says it's calculated once on an average day, how can it be calculated only once and also be on
That's,
an average day?
that's where I was coming from.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm pointing it out because it's not our committee.
Right.
It's the budget committee. I wanted to be sure you were okay with this because this has been an ongoing contention, at least with me, and it will come up shortly again.
And I can help too with the October, why do we use October 1st enrollment? Because on the beginning of year report, that's the number that throughout the year we use. So think of it as like, what is the attendance of that one day? And we're gonna now use that to report off of. Well, is that 100% accurate? Like, let's say you had very low attendance that day.
But it's not the attendance for that day. It's
October 1st, it is,
It
because
is.
when I put it on the beginning of year report, the BOY with the state,
Isn't that average daily membership?
no,
No.
because that report can only be, it's the
But we
preliminary report.
calculate ADM on October 1st.
It's for the
Different
prior
things
year.
that-
I'm talking about
Right,
going
but
forward
So
though.
So-
there's two October 1st numbers.
And then there's an
That's
end of
the
year.
first I've heard of this.
And then
I've
there's
been
an
on the
end of
school board
year
for 7
report.
years.
And then
or
we do it
8.
again at the end of the year.
Maybe
Yeah.
it's 8. I
Well,
don't know.
the ADM is, I wouldn't consider that an October 1st number, that would be a June 30th number that doesn't get reported until you
Until-
finish the DOE 25, which is like
October.
September.
Yeah.
Now, we usually submit it by September 15th, I think. The October 1st, though, is for the next fiscal year, the fiscal year you're currently in, because we want to run per pupil numbers throughout the year. And so if we're going to be consistent with all the schools, that's the number we use for, so for 2014, while we're during the school year, we're using that October 1st number.
Like a
But when we look at
census.
the cohort data and we compare across districts, we use the actual calculated ADM of the prior fiscal year, which is completed, I know, and I'm working actually on a document that, and I've got it almost finished,
Good.
that explains
That outlines
each
them
kind of
all.
enrollment, because it's hard to explain.
It is indeed. There are other reports in your packet. I was impressed to see that at New Hampton and Danbury, there were 87% of the parents participated in the school conferences in New Hampton and 93% in Danbury. That's pretty amazing. That is a percentage that we should strive to increase at all our schools, I think, because parental involvement is what helps kids stay out of trouble. So kudos to the staff at both those elementary schools.
And to Ann.
And to the
Some
administration,
words. Yeah.
and in particular, I guess. Anyone else have any comments?
Is the technology update going to be part of Josh's
Yes.
Yeah.
presentation?
The only other thing is, January 28th, the middle school math team is going at it again. Good luck to the math team. Impressive. That now brings me to the SPED report. So, on the SPED report, it references K through 12 as being 153 students that are SPEDs, right? And then pre-K is 20. Our district is 9. And so when you total those up, you get 182, PK through 12, right?
Yes.
Okay, total student enrollment, PK through 12 is 1,209. Why are you dividing it in the next line by 1191 and not 1209?
Because I took preschool out because that's a special ed preschool, so every student in there is identified, so it skews our identification rate. The reason that there's a little bit of a difference is, according to my special ed reports, we have 20 students eligible for special ed services in preschool. There are only 18 who show up on the enrollment because I'm guessing 2 haven't yet enrolled into the preschool program, so that's why that number is a little bit off. But I wanted to take the preschoolers out because it does skew what the rate is.
Okay. And now below that, in October data, the total student enrollment is only 1,207. So what did you use in the,
I just pulled this, you last month asked me to include the October 1st data on my reports every month, so I just
okay,
pulled that
so
on
that's
the
an
October.
update.
Yeah.
The 1,209 is more current.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. Actually, Ann, I knew all that stuff, but I was trying to find a way to get you to participate in the meeting. Thank you.
All right, you got me panicked a little.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments on the reports?
Yeah,
Jeff?
Mike, on the business, on the spreadsheet here you gave us, I see, it looks like we're $14,455 over budget on upkeep of grounds.
Yes. Good catch on that. I have empowered our maintenance manager, facilities manager, Alan, to really look through and start working on his budget. And he came to me last week, he's like, all worried. He's like, I just started doing this, and I'm already 14,000 over budget. So I took a look at it, and working with our payroll and AP person, we noticed that one of the POs had been input twice, encumbering funds for the whole year, and this was for snow plowing. So actually now I printed this report obviously before that, so that's been caught, and I believe that was a $19,000 PO, so there should be about $5,000, it's in the plus side now, about $5,000.
Yeah. So I was just gonna ask, well, snow removal
That's a
towards the
big
end of the
deal.
year, yeah.
But we encumber, the interesting thing is with that, we used to just look at the transactions on that.
Right.
So we now are trying in each case to look at our usage and our contractual pricing and everything from utilities to encumber funds. So snow plowing's encumbered for the full year based on our contract.
Okay. The other thing I was looking at was speech services. Looks like it's 10,000 over.
That's 21.
Where is that? Jeff?
2150,
Okay.
kind of just above midway.
Okay.
Can pull up the detail on that if you want.
Yeah. I'm not going to do this.
No, just pull up the detail on that line. Citizen insurance. The health insurance line on it's over by, this is looking at employee health insurance elections, over by $11,700. The salaries line, which would make sense, is also over by 9,500. And so we're also encumbering payroll completely through the end of the year. So those were either misbudgeted, and if you look at the lines for the speech pathologists, those are over significantly.
I believe they switched, this is the first year with 3 in-house speech pathologists. They used to contract the services out, so I don't know if in hiring employees who then can take benefits, if people took more benefits than was anticipated, I'm not sure.
But that overage is salary and benefits
Yes.
under that line item.
Yeah, that's pretty much what
Under that
that
function code.
is. That line item is pretty much primarily salary and benefits.
One of those things too, and we can look at it in a little bit more detail, is probably you have within your contracted services in another area of the budget, those have lessened. Is that, didn't you end one of the contracted services with Molly, with one of our vendors? Conley?
No, that was
No.
counseling.
Counselor? Okay. So that is speech pathologists, and the salary speech assistant lines are over.
Anything else? Okay, the only other comment I have on the technology piece, I assume there's gonna be a handout that we can read later. Right? This is for packet info.
No, that is, Josh is gonna talk through it.
Yeah, that's the handout Josh is talking to. Would you like that larger?
Well, us older guys need
Color.
magnetic magnifiers. I thought this was for summary purposes.
I think on white paper it shows up better.
I can read everything except
You
the
also
little
need
table.
color.
Yeah.
Younger than
Well,
me.
Josh will talk about it, so
Yeah.
you can always get it back out to you electronically.
And it really did it nicely in color too. So-
Yeah, I know, when it's
We
not
couldn't
on
make
the
it,
purple paper, it looks nice.
Yeah.
We should have printed it.
You'll speak to every part of it, so if you want, he can read over it. It's not that detail, you'll go into detail on each category for
All right.
projectors too.
Well,
Percentages.
for reasons like that, it's important to have, use all the real estate you have.
Certainly.
It's kind of like indexing line items, just a visual
Got it.
thing.
Yep.
Okay, I guess that now brings us to discussion items, which we're gonna start with item 9E as the first item, which is the annual computing philosophy. Copy of which you have here. We should read it.
Oh, sorry.
I think it was in the packet, so. I guess we're gonna turn this over to Josh.
Yep, so Josh Millay is here, who is our kind of overseer of the technology, so we asked him to talk about where we are with the philosophy, and since he has kind of more so than Mike or I been owning technology since we just started, he's gonna talk a little bit about the worksheet that you have, as well as kind of where we are in technology in the district, so. Josh, it's all yours.
Okay.
You ready?
We also feel you should all be able to meet some of the people behind
Yeah.
all this work. So we often present on what other people are doing. And Josh fortunately has come in and he created this report and works with these topics.
He's gonna use technology.
He's our technology
I
manager.
can zoom in so I can see the charts. Great. So, in compliance with the board philosophy, we've been working to decrease the number of Mac devices in the school district. We're down to 18.7%. The graphic down at the bottom, if you can't see it as clearly, it shows that we have 55.4% total Windows, 18.7% total Mac, 9.6% total Chrome OS, a very small sliver that's Linux, and 14.8% of iOS devices.
What's an iOS device?
iPad.
Tablets. You want to talk a little bit about the benefits of each of these, so it's not an all or nothing section of technology? Why would you need to have some tablets? Why might you need to have Chromebooks? What are the advantage? I know you did a little bit about the advantage of Chromebooks.
Yeah, so last year the board authorized us to get the Chrome OS devices, which have been a huge hit. All around this room are actually Chrome boxes. One of the greatest advantages is the speed in which they boot up. So you can fire one of these things up in just a few seconds, right? Yeah. And you're in there, you're ready to log in and start working with whatever materials you need to work with, which has been a huge help when you have 45-minute work periods like in English, and you're trying to get a computer booted up to work on a document, stuff like that. The Chrome OS devices have been very well received. So it's definitely a device that works for a certain purpose, so you can't install like regular Windows applications and stuff like that on it. So if you're doing documents, if you're doing email, presentations, stuff like that, they're excellent devices, but we have to be careful that when we replace machines that have been out there that are full-fledged computers, that they can do everything that needs to be done for what they're being set up for. They've worked really well up here in the high school, in the library. We have a couple out in middle school, and we're looking at deploying more of them this year. So that's those. The iPads come in very handy. There's lots of educational apps out there that you can't get on other devices, and just the interactivity that they have with the touchscreen. Yep.
Do you mean to say tablets or iPads?
What did I say?
You said iPads. And in
Yeah.
this case, these tablets are, in many cases, iPads.
Most of the cases we have iPads. Personally, I prefer Android, but right now what we have in the majority is iPad.
And I can speak a little bit, special education uses iPad a lot because of the amount of apps that are available to students with disabilities, and they're just very engaging for students. I think Android is getting there, but it's not there yet, as far as what's available for students with disabilities.
We could be.
I'll take you on.
But this is a good conversation because a lot of this has to do with the user's comfort on these devices. So as we transition, as we're not going and replacing all Macs at once, right? Because then we would be doing tons of, spending lots of money on professional development. So we want to look at what is the comfort zone of people using it. They still need to teach, so we can't be constantly changing these devices. Some of them have advantages over the others, so you don't want a system that's completely one-sided. And also we need to realize that the students are working in an environment that when they leave here, hopefully they're going in a corporate, college or a working environment, they need to be able to use multiple platforms for different reasons. So we want to be careful on looking at the philosophy of just replacing all of one brand with another, but does it match the curriculum? And here's another good reason for a curriculum coordinator to be looking at how do we use, and we're right now trying to make more efficient our committees on this. The technology committee, working with curriculum, working with facilities, working with technology to make all these things work together. So you don't have a constantly changing environment where the kids are like, what's going on from one school to the next? So this is part of the kind of group effort of marrying our curriculum with technology and how we use our facilities and labs and so on, for as little cost as possible. So you don't need a full-fledged laptop in every room, when a Chromebook is exactly what you need, because we don't waste time logging in. So there's really purposes for each one of these devices. And we have to be careful and be able to justify it. And so we're looking at using our technology committee more to justify those costs. And is it worth it? And do we have the right professional development so that we can use it properly? Any questions on that kind of distribution before we go to projectors?
Just a comment, 8 years ago, 2008, when we adopted this, the justification was, at the time, was to recognize that the marketplace was very different than what was deployed in the school environment. And the philosophy was to reflect what's going on in the marketplace to the degree that it would be feasible for us to do so within the constraints of the budgets that would allow us to reach a goal, and that's all it was a goal. Knowing, and I think we said at the time that netbooks weren't even in existence then, and now they're essentially obsolete. So that was the purpose of establishing a philosophy. And the fundamental reason behind it was that we were spending several $100,000 dedicated to Apple equipment, is what it boiled down to. And that we could do the same thing for far less money by picking more granular choices that was at the time basically all desktop computing. Today, we've got to start thinking about digital textbooks. I think you made that point.
It's on the
Yeah.
report too.
Yeah. So philosophically, what we want to do is position ourselves, unless we change this, but to stay where the general market's going and not pick a niche. Just those very esoteric proprietary environments that get very costly to the district. With that said, you continue, John.
Yeah, I mean, that is absolutely what we're trying to do. And the one thing we recognize is as a public school, we're not here to experiment necessarily on new technologies. It's to use what is shown to be a good, proven technology, because we can't afford to jump on the newest device either. So everybody wants to jump on quickly these e-readers. We gotta be very careful with that, because a lot of them are proprietary to Barnes and Nobles, to Amazon. There's all sorts of different readers, and with each one of those comes kind of a little hook to use a service that involves a lot of advertising. So we want to know also as a district, where are we going to get our best bang for the buck, but also be able to deliver this consistently across all these schools. We don't want one classroom kind of experimenting with one and another. So this is where we're really running these ideas through our technology committee and saying, okay, that seems like a good idea. Have we really thought about this in use with special education? Have we thought about how this would affect curriculum? Because if you get all these e-readers, but then at the same time we're doing curriculum adoption for all hard books, Why did we do that? Because the technology won't even catch up to the next adoption. So it's really syncing our technology needs without experimenting on new technologies for the sake of getting the newest gadget. Everybody wants to jump on quickly these e-readers. You gotta be very careful with that, because a lot of them are proprietary to Barnes and Nobles, to Amazon. There's all sorts of different readers, and with each one of those comes kind of a little hook to use a service that involves a lot of advertising. So we want to know also as a district, where are we going to get our best bang for the buck, but also be able to deliver this consistently across all these schools. We don't want one classroom kind of experimenting with one and another. So this is where we're really running these ideas through our technology committee and saying, okay, that seems like a good idea. Have we really thought about this in use with special education? Have we thought about how this would affect curriculum? Because if you get all these e-readers, but then at the same time we're doing curriculum adoption for all hard books, why did we do that? Because the technology won't even catch up to the next adoption. So it's really syncing our technology needs without experimenting on new technologies for the sake of getting the newest gadget. So it really is a thoughtful approach to it, and Josh is picking up right on what was started as, you know, we're just heavy in on one brand, and it makes sense.
So for projectors, we've been working really hard to get digital projectors deployed in classrooms. We're seeing it as more and more a fundamental asset in the classroom, just like a chalkboard or something else might have been in the past. We've currently got 70% of classrooms equipped with mounted projectors. 47% of those are interactive. So instead of having the old smart boards, where you can damage the smart board and the digitizer wouldn't work anymore in the smart board, they've got kind of like if you've ever used a Wii controller, they have controllers that can sense where you are on a board. So you can use our regular whiteboard, stuff like that. So we've outfitted interactive projectors in some classrooms where the teachers could utilize them. We
So
also
that-
deployed, yes?
So there is a reason that only 47% of them are interactive?
Yeah, when we were deploying, we left it up to the teachers to define whether they could make use of it or not. If they couldn't make use of the interactive projector, we went with a standard projector to save money.
So that might be a little thing we'll be changing philosophy on too, because if you're gonna deploy a technology throughout the district, if a teacher's not quite up to speed on that, you don't say, all right, you don't need to have that technology. Before we deploy something like this, we're gonna start thinking about, okay, so if we are gonna do it, everybody's doing this. The kid's gonna get the same consistent application of these items from class to class. So if someone's not up to speed on that technology, we're gonna train them. And so these are a little bit change of philosophy in installing these devices to, we're not gonna install them unless we're ready to back the whole implementation of those. So in one area, we had installed a lot of these projectors, but we did not have the software to make those projectors interactive. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Now it's just a projecting device and it can't be used for nearly what it was designed to be used for. So before we install more projectors, the first thing we're doing is getting that interactive software to work on those devices and getting the teachers trained on how to use it, because the stereotype on these things are, as a consultant, I came into a lot of schools that have these thousands and thousands of dollars of interactive smart boards and so on. And then I'd go to use it and they're like, whoa, you know how much we paid for that device? Don't touch it. And I'm like, exactly. So you've got a very expensive sculpture sitting in your room, making you feel important. So we don't want that, and we don't want people to come by and see our students learning on not the devices that our taxpayers pay for, because we know this technology becomes obsolete quickly, so we need to maximize our use of it. So those are, again, that's the philosophy of that technology committee, where why would you spend the money to purchase these things unless you're absolutely going to use them, and use them correctly and thoroughly.
Under projectors, I also mentioned we got laptops for elementary school teachers. This will help them hooking up to the projectors they can deploy or display digital content. Down at the bottom, if it's small for you, the high school has 61% of classrooms deployed, The middle school has 93% of classrooms deployed. Bristol Elementary School has 61% of projectors deployed. Danbury Elementary School is at 80%. Bridgewater Hebron Village School is at 69%, and New Hampton Community School is at 60%. I wanted to talk a little bit about Google Apps. Again, this was another thing that the board approved in the past. Google Apps is normally $50 per user per year, but it offers it for free to schools and nonprofits. Back then, adopting the suite allowed us to eliminate the ongoing cost of hosting a web and email server, saving approximately $4,000 per year. A feature of Google Apps, we've continued to work with it, and one of those features is called Google Apps Script. With that, we're able to code web applications very quickly that automate workflows. Using this feature, we've been able to replace the work order system, which was costing us about $5,000 per year. And we avoided purchasing a professional development tracking program quoted at about $8,000 per year. We also use a lot of different applications. So this kind of acts as a platform, and you can install web-based applications onto it. So for example, what I wrote this presentation on was something called Lucid Press, which is offered for school districts, again, also for free. If you go onto the back page, the graphic there, I know it got really small, but that's just comparing the years from 2009 to 2013. 2013 in purple. It's just demonstrating the change from...
A darker shade of,
Yeah, okay, so the one on the right, the furthest right bar would be the 2013, and the furthest left bar would be 2009. You can barely see it on there in 2009, and we feel that this, looking at the various cacti reports and stuff like that, is a good bandwidth.
So that's just bandwidth, it's not the percentage utilization.
It is not the utilization, no. That's our maximum bandwidth capacity in each school. We assisted
what we can utilize.
what we can use.
You can see the limitation in 2009 to where we're at now.
We also assisted in the deployment of a portfolio template posted on Google Sites. This provides a place for the kids to share their work and reflect on it throughout their career. It's a requirement of the New Hampshire DOE minimum standards, and it's something that we've been sorely missing for many years. That's now deployed out to students district-wide. We kind of talked about this next section a little bit. Basically, basic e-reader and tablet devices may become economically feasible eventually to replace textbooks. So we're looking at that and researching some of the other school districts that are piloting right now different solutions. So we're looking at that. And just looking at some of the cool features that they can do aside from just lighting up a backpack. For example, a lot of the sensors that are on the devices and the interactivity and applications that they can run. Then the last section is just about working to maintain the maximum life cycle for 5 years for laptops and 8 years for desktops. And I just included the section from the technology plan. And that's about it. If you want to scan the little code in the corner, I don't know how well it came out on the copy, but you should be able to use your phone, scan it. It's a QR code, it'll take you right to the technology plan, if you want to reference that.
Lloyd's going to demo that for us right now.
I was going to say amen. I put my 3rd, 4th, 5th grade kids when I was in school ahead of these kids with these, and they'd eat them up.
Yep.
And you know it would be true.
Back on the capacities, Bridgewater, New Hampton, and Danbury,
Yes.
they're not experienced, or, that capacity is adequate for their needs.
That's what we're finding. They're smaller schools. So what we've done is we've got a fiber line going to the middle school, and then we're taking a wireless access point and shooting that wirelessly over to Bristol Elementary School and the SAU. So all of our internet connectivity goes through a point-to-point wireless back to the middle school.